There's a strange kind of peace that settles over a man who's convinced himself that the worst is behind him. I found that peace in the soft laughter echoing from my living room on a cold November evening. My son Jake was showing Emma some ridiculous meme on his phone, and she was laughing, really laughing, the way she used to when we first met. The sound warmed the house better than the fireplace ever could. My name is David, and I'm 45. I lost my wife, Michelle, to cancer. 6 years ago, watching her fade away was the slow unraveling of everything I knew. For years, I stumbled through life like a man navigating a fog without a compass. And then I met Emma. She was working at the library where I'd taken a temporary consulting job. A quiet woman with observant eyes, she was 20 years younger, and yet never once did I feel the gap. Emma listened. She noticed things. And over time, she became the light I'd stopped believing I'd ever see again. We got engaged last spring. I introduced her to Jake over dinner one evening. He was just finishing college, full of sarcasm and charisma. When I told him I was seeing someone, he rolled his eyes. But the moment he met Emma, his tone shifted. He said she was cool, which from Jake was high praise. To my relief, they got along. Jake made her laugh. Emma told me he reminded her of her younger brother. That first dinner, we drank wine, exchanged stories, and for the first time in years, I felt whole. I believed this was the start of something good. When Jake moved back in after graduation, I was thrilled. The house had been too quiet for too long. Emma and I had already been living together for a few months, and though it wasn't perfect, the rhythm of our lives felt natural, normal. Jake and Emma formed an easy rapport. They'd binge-watch detective shows on the couch, argue about plot twists, and roast my music taste together. I'd joke about being the odd one out, but deep down, I was happy. We were building something that looked a lot like a second chance. Still, I began to notice things. One afternoon, I came home early from work. Emma and Jake were in the kitchen, laughing over something on her phone. The moment I stepped in, the laughter stopped. They exchanged a glance that lasted a second too long. Emma smiled and said they were planning something for my birthday. Jake grabbed his keys and said he was late to meet a friend. It was small, forgettable, except it wasn't. The little things kept piling up. Jake started skipping dinners. Said he had gym meetups, freelance gigs, late nights. Emma seemed distracted, her phone glued to her hand. Sometimes I'd walk into a room and feel a sudden tension, like air being sucked from the space. I told myself it was my imagination. They were both young, energetic, probably just bonding over mutual interests I didn't share. I didn't want to be the insecure older guy clinging too hard to a younger fiancé. I trusted Emma. I loved her. And Jake, he was my son, my only child. We had survived Michelle's loss together. I had held him through the sobs when he was 15, telling him everything would be okay. But doubt, once planted, grows quietly. Even without attention, it finds its way through the cracks. One evening, our neighbor, Mrs. Linden, a retired school teacher with a sharp eye and sharper tongue, stopped me while I was raking leaves. "Your boy and your young lady make a lovely couple," she said with a knowing smile. "Saw them driving together down near Lakeview twice this week." I laughed. I had to. "That's my fiancé," I said. Her smile froze. "Oh," she murmured. "Well, just thought they looked sweet together." That night, I barely slept. I watched Emma's chest rise and fall as she lay beside me, peaceful, untouchable. I remembered the first time she said she loved me, and how it had felt like a resurrection. I remembered Michelle's final words. "Protect him, David, no matter what." A whisper of fear crept in, silent and persistent. Was I protecting Jake? Or was I protecting myself from seeing what I didn't want to know? I didn't realize it then, but the truth was already in motion, like a wave gathering far offshore, and soon it would crash over everything. It was a Tuesday, quiet, unremarkable. The kind of day that tricks you into thinking life is predictable. Emma had taken the day off to rest. Jake said he was meeting a former classmate across town. I decided to run errands. Groceries, post office, gas. Nothing complicated. But when I walked out to the driveway, I noticed Emma's car wasn't there. Strange. She hadn't mentioned going anywhere. Jake's car, however, sat idle under the maple tree, his keys hanging from the hook near the front door. Odd. If he had plans, how had he left? I hesitated before grabbing the keys. Maybe his friend had picked him up. Still, I needed to fill up a tank, and his sedan had better mileage. That was the excuse I told myself as I slid into the driver's seat. Halfway through the drive, I reached for the glove compartment in search of napkins. Instead, I found something else. A scarf. Delicate. Lacy. Lavender with tiny floral stitching. Not something Jake would own, and not a style I'd ever seen Emma wear. I held it for a moment, confused until I noticed the faint scent of Emma's perfume clinging to the fabric. Still, I told myself it was harmless. Then I saw the envelope. Tucked between the passenger seat and the console was a crumpled motel receipt. I smoothed it out and stared at the words like they might rearrange themselves into something sensible. One night. Lakeside Inn, room 203, signed, Emma Williams. My hands trembled. Lakeside Inn was 20 minutes from our house. Quiet, out of the way, a place you go when you don't want to be seen. A strange numbness overtook me as I turned the car around. My grip on the steering wheel was iron, my mind a carousel of denial, dread, and fury. By the time I walked into the house, Emma was in the kitchen, humming as she stirred something on the stove. She turned and smiled. "Hey, you're back early." I held up the receipt. Her smile faltered. Her hands froze mid-motion. "Where were you last night, Emma?" She blinked rapidly. What is this?" "You tell me." There was a long silence, the kind that drips like water in a cavern, each second echoing forever. Finally, she exhaled. "David, please. It's not what it looks like." I didn't speak. I just waited. Tears formed quickly, but I wasn't moved by them. She stepped forward. "It happened once, just once. I was lonely. We had been arguing and I felt..." "Who?" My voice was low, measured. It terrified even me. She looked away. "Who, Emma?" She hesitated. Her lips parted and then closed again. I could see the battle on her face, the way guilt and fear wrestled for dominance. And then she whispered, Jake." The world seemed to tilt. "What did you say?" She folded in on herself, like someone physically struck. "I didn't mean for it to happen. We were drinking. I was vulnerable. He kissed me. I didn't stop it." I backed away from her, like she was a stranger. My mouth opened, but no sound came out. My stomach twisted. My knees threatened to give out. That's when I heard the front door open. Jake strolled in casually, earbuds in, nodding to the beat of a song only he could hear. When he saw us, his smile faded. "What's going on?" I turned to face him. He froze. "Tell me it's not true," I said, my voice cracking. He pulled his earbuds out slowly. "Dad, listen. Tell me you didn't sleep with Emma." His jaw tightened. "It wasn't like that. You don't understand. Did you or didn't you?" A long, soul-crushing pause. Then he nodded. Something inside me snapped. I lunged forward, fists clenched, but stopped short of hitting him. Instead, I struck the wall with such force the plaster cracked. The pain was immediate, but I barely felt it. Emma screamed. Jake flinched but didn't move. "I gave you everything," I growled. "Both of you." Jake's voice shook. "It wasn't planned. It just happened. She was unhappy. We connected." "Connected?" I laughed bitterly. "You connected with your father's fiancée?" He looked away, ashamed but stubborn. Emma sobbed behind him. I walked past them both, grabbing my jacket. I couldn't look at them anymore. I stepped into the cold, breath fogging, heart racing. Claire's house wasn't far. She opened the door before I knocked, as if she'd felt it too. "What happened?" she asked softly. I couldn't speak. I simply walked in and collapsed onto her couch, shaking, numb, hollow. And for the first time since Michelle died, I cried like a child. I spent the next 3 nights in Claire's guest room, sleeping in short bursts and waking in cold sweats. My mind replayed that moment. Emma's voice, low and shaking, saying Jake's name. It was on a loop, a cruel echo that refused to die. Claire was kind. She didn't push. She brought tea, sat quietly nearby, and reminded me that I wasn't obligated to forgive anyone. Not Jake, not Emma, not even myself. But the guilt came anyway. Had I been blind, too eager to fill the void Michelle left behind, too desperate to believe in happiness again? On the 4th morning, I turned my phone on. Dozens of missed calls and unread messages flooded in, most from Emma. The latest read, "Please let me explain. I never wanted this. I just need closure." I deleted the text. Jake had left one message, just one. A voicemail I couldn't bring myself to listen to. I didn't need explanations. I needed silence, distance, stillness. A week passed, then 2. I avoided the house, choosing instead to drive through old neighborhoods, walk aimlessly by the Yao River, and sit in the same cafe Michelle and I used to visit before her chemo treatments. I watched people laugh, eat, live, and it felt like I was behind glass, a spectator in someone else's world. Then came the letter, handwritten. Jake's uneven scrawl covered both sides of the paper. He apologized, said he didn't know why. He crossed that line, claimed he loved me and hated himself for what he'd done, said Emma was lost, confused, and that it had only happened twice, that it meant nothing, that he wished he could undo it. I read every word, then tore the letter in half. Love, I realized, wasn't always enough to undo damage. Some boundaries once crossed redraw the entire map of who someone is to you. Mrs. Linden caught me on the sidewalk a few days later. She leaned in with that familiar whisper. "Saw your son and that pretty girl of yours at the market. They looked cozy." I gave her a flat smile and kept walking. I didn't want confirmation. I didn't want speculation. I just wanted out of the wreckage. Emma sent one final message. "Please, just meet me once. After that, I'll disappear forever." Against my better judgment, I agreed. We met at a quiet cafe just outside town. She looked tired, paler than usual, her hair tied back as if she hadn't had the energy to do more. She didn't waste time. "I'm sorry," she began. "Not just for what I did, but for who I became." I said nothing. "I never stopped loving you," she continued. "But I was scared of the future, of marrying into a family still grieving. Jake was easy to talk to. He made me feel young. Again, alive. It wasn't love, it was fear. I see that now." I finally spoke. "Where is he?" "Gone, moved to Oregon, said he couldn't stay here. We haven't spoken in weeks." "Are you still in love with him?" She hesitated. "No, I'm not even sure I ever was." I believed her, but it didn't matter anymore. "I'm not angry anymore," I said, "just tired." She nodded slowly, blinking back tears. "I never expected forgiveness. I just needed you to know that you mattered, that you weren't just some placeholder." I stood up. "I wasn't a placeholder. I was your future, and you set it on fire." I walked out without looking back. Months passed. I moved out of town, rented a small cabin near the mountains. Quiet, isolated, peaceful. I started writing again, gardening, going on long hikes where cell signals died, and all that remained was the sound of wind in the trees. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, I began to heal. I thought about Michelle often, her laugh, her stubborn kindness, her final words, "Protect him, David." I had tried. I failed. But maybe, in choosing to walk away, I was protecting what was left of me. In time, I stopped checking for messages. I deleted Jake's number, erased Emma's photos. I let them both go, not with hate, but with finality. Some betrayals don't come with closure. They come with scars, with silence, with lessons carved deep into the soul. But there is life after ruin. And sometimes, the greatest act of love is knowing when to stop saving people who don't see the damage they've caused.